Hello and welcome to the video. Today we are going to hobby grade the Xmods Evolution. Now this can be done on either the Evolution standard, the street as well, or the truck. We're just going to be doing the truck considering that's the one that's pretty much ready to be worked on. Exactly what I'm going to do is going to be what you do on the car as well. So first thing, let's make sure we got what we need. I got 2 screwdrivers here. One to do basic screws that we're going to find on this. I have a screwdriver with very tiny end. This will be to undo the screws on the servo. We are going to be able to do this conversion and keep the AAA batteries. Obviously, if you want to go to LiPos, go right ahead. I'm going to keep the AAAs because it's a lot nicer to work with. Plus, whole point of this tutorial is to show you how to do this without cutting any parts. And lastly, we're going to need the hobby grade stuff. So you're going to need a receiver for a transmitter. This is a standard FlySky GT3B receiver. It just has the case taken off, so it's a little smaller. This is the first time I'm going to do this on a nano servo. So I could be a little slow when it comes to this, but if you have a standard micro servo, that'll work too. I just happen to have a lot more of these than micro servos at the moment, so we're going to try with that. And then as well, an ESC. This is a standard 20 amp that you could find on Amazon, and it is in fact brushed. So, first thing we're going to do, we're going to unscrew, take all this off. We got our soldering iron. We're going to unsolder the board. So we're going to unsolder the wires from the battery ends. We're going to unsolder the servo centering part from the board. We're going to desolder the motor from the board. And these wires from the motor are going to have to come off. So let's do that. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to disassemble the center part. So we'll just undo all the screws. Hopefully I don't have to do any of the stuff here. Now what's nice about this conversion is because we won't have to cut any parts, almost all of this is OEM. As well as we don't have to get into any 3D printing, which is I like to use 3D printing sometimes. However, if I can use OEM parts, especially if they don't need cut, I will take that in a heartbeat. So when I came across how to do this, it was great. Now, granted, this main tutorial is more so for the idea of converting a 5 wire servo into a 3, or more so converting a 3 wire into a 5 wire. And pretty much everything we need for that is inside the servo. So we are honestly, God, I can't hold anything. We are only using this servo for parts. We are not actually using the servo at all. So probably gonna struggle with this considering I got the camera literally in my face. So we'll desolder you. That requires you to actually leave the board. Probably would be best if I actually took it out. So we'll pull this out. Then obviously if you're soldering, I would recommend a ventilated area. I got the window open, but I had to turn the fan off for talking reasons. Got it. Alright, next thing. Motor wire. And then our centering wires. Oh, please tell me that these are not sticking to each other. And we do not need that anymore. Okay, good. They did not stick to each other. Alright. Alright, in my case here, because I have the truck, I'm going to have to replace these wires, because the wires that are on this are not nearly long enough. So, and I don't want to cut OEM wires, but this kind of has some junk on the end of it, so maybe I ought to keep it and then just cut wires. I think we'll just keep the wires and cut them. It is a nice stage 2 motor though, so that kind of sucks to have to ruin the wires like that. Alright, on to the next step. Alright, for this step here, we are going to take apart the servo. Now I really hope that this one only has 2 screws. A micro servo will have 4, but it's the same deal. You are going to need some snippers, probably some higher end ones, because this thing will be destroyed. Gotta take the sticker off. Woo! That came off nice. I already like, well, so far this is kind of nicer compared to the other one, because the micro servo, you need to cut this thing. So on a standard micro servo, unlike the nano here where the board just came out, the nano servo is directly soldered onto the centering piece. So you will have to use some snippers on this and break it. So then you can take some tiny nippers and snip the bottom soldering ends, because, well, if they're there, it's not a problem. So you can just cut those. So let's see, make sure that the wires are in the same kind of, oh my gosh, that's going to be a nightmare. We're still going to be able to do it. However, I would definitely recommend, if you are a newer to soldering, I would recommend doing this on a micro servo and not a nano servo, because this nano is tiny. I think I can get it though. So we're going to then unsolder these wires. So now granted, the black and the red wires, if you get the polarity on them incorrect, you can always reverse it on your controller. It almost looks like that those are directly connected to the 3 pins there. This is gonna be a nightmare. I really hope this works, or else this whole video's bunk. Alright, so I gotta get these in a good way. So we'll pull up there. One, two, 3. And our little board's free. That's all we need from the servo. So now we need to wire this to the Xmod. Alright, so this is going to be kind of tricky. So what I recommend doing, so we need to have it kind of mounted this way. However, we can do this as a base. It doesn't need to actually stay in this location. But the best thing to do is have the board in a stationary location. So I recommend getting some double-sided tape and sticking it to the chassis. Doesn't have to be much. It's not going to move. I'm going to stick it literally on top of the servo. Kind of works, considering that's where it is. Obviously, make sure that your wires are going to be able to reach. So my red and black are that way, and then these are that way. So we'll stick this here. All right. Can we, oh, there we go. Bring the zoom in a little. All right, so if I remember correctly, black wire went here. Move this out of the way. How far can we zoom? There we go. I'd really hope that I don't bump the camera. Okay. And obviously the part that I can see... So we're going... Now, there is a chance that I'm getting the polarity on this backwards. So if that's the case, obviously you can reverse the polarity. Alright. Let's see. Okay, so pretty much rule of thumb, red will always go in the center. Now, you know what? I wonder if black... Well, obviously... Alright, so if we get the wiring on this backwards, you will know because the centering... I can't really use my hand here, but it gets inverted. So if you get the wiring on this correct, and you turn it on, the steering will be centered. If you get it wrong, the steering will most likely crank all the way to the right. And if that's the case, you got it backwards, so just invert your black and your white wire. So to start off, we're going to mimic the coloring of what's currently there. So if I untangle these wires the right way. So we'll start with black. It really doesn't help that it's kind of late and my vision tends to go when I'm tired, so... That. I really want to get my head in here, but I don't want you guys to have to look at it. Well, better yet, let's stop hitting the camera. Jeez. Am I still in shot? I am not in shot. Did I get it? I must have. Yeah, I got it. Alright, so I don't have any, it's not the prettiest thing, but I don't have any, well, camera's in my face, so I can't get really close, and I don't have any, bad sections there, so we're good. If we want to be worried about, well, exposed wire, we got liquid tape to do that. So, before we can even test to see if this is any good, we kind of gotta get the rest of the car working, so... Zoom out, please. I guess this is ready for the next part anyway, so we'll have that. Alright, for the next part, we're going to wire this up so then we actually can get some electricity. So we got, on this specific ESC, we got 2 plugs. This one here, the female, this one's meant for the battery, and this male here is for the motor. So we are going to take care of that first. So, because the wiring on this is very soft, I wouldn't recommend cutting all the way up just in case you want to reuse that plug. But it's soft enough, so I can just take my fingernails, or what's left of them, and pull those off. Then we'll take our solder. Remember, well-ventilated area, guys. Smoky. Alright, now we gotta identify where we need to go. So the black wire will be going over here, which is the negative. I guess we may as well get these wires in order. Think about which direction you want to mount this on the chassis as well. Alright, we're on. So, let's connect this to our receiver. And we'll see if we got the steering backwards. I mean, I guess I don't necessarily need to... Well, I guess we ought to make sure we're actually going to get some electricity. But you kind of need to put batteries in it, Lee. To be honest, is that switch in the on or off position? Doesn't say. Well, the steering didn't freak out, so that's good. And obviously nothing's connected to the motor. Alright. Alright, as you can tell by the steering, we have the wires backwards, so let's fix that quick. So this white wire actually needs to go where the black one is. God, it's also tiny. I'd recommend using pliers for when it comes to something this tiny. I don't like the positioning of that wire. Shoot, I bent it out of the way. Again, I bent it out of the way. Alright, that's good. Let's try this again. Look at that! It works! Alright, so in case Now we're going to be moving on, but in case you're using the nano servo like I am, black will go where the white is, white will go where the black is. Red is always in the center. Alright, so we got the motor wires to take care of, and we're practically done. Well, you know what, this wire kind of removed itself, so we have no choice but to remove the back. Now, I have no idea what kind of gunk is on here. I don't know. High amounts of ventilation, guys. High amounts of ventilation. Alright, so let's get this mounted. So let's go back. We're going to use the double-sided tape. We're not going to screw anything down. There isn't really any place to screw anything down, so there's that. Now, because this is an Xmod truck, we're going to have to shift it a little forward, so then the rear clip actually has some room. So we'll stay clear of that. So we'll double-sided tape it to this. Now, I would like to relocate this, and I really hope I don't break it. Especially breaking any of my solder points. There we go. Move that off the top there so we can leave this space for transponders for racing. Then this can practically be tucked in here. Or tucked in here. You can choose to double-side tape that if you'd like. I don't like taping the receivers down because I have way too many cars to use these across. So taping it down will be a no from me. Just kind of like stick it in a hole for now. Now we got the on and off switch, and so then the wires kind of try and get themselves to conform to the area. We're going to throw a rubber band in here, as well as keep the servo in for my situation. Is it going to be anywhere near as pretty as a stock Xmod? No, it's not all on one board. And I'm really hoping I'm not forcing any of those wires into a location that they won't work. If anything, we'll check to make sure that we still got some function here. Alright, steering still works how it's supposed to, so we're good. Alright, so in this case here, we'll get some spare wire. You don't really need much length. Now, if you're doing this on a standard Evo car, the wires that are on the ESC, they're long enough to get to the motor, so you don't need that. However, in my case with the truck, I do. Now, some ESCs are kind of reversed compared to normal, so it would be okay to wire the wires backwards in the same situation. I've been just putting them normal. And then we'll also need to load them up into the little cavity that they have on the back. Now hopefully I burned through whatever that coating was. Hot. Ooh, cutting it close. And obviously, because we're having to do this, best to have shrink tubing. Obviously, put it a distance away from where you're soldering, so then it doesn't shrink before you're done. And then it wouldn't be a bad idea to prep the wires with some solder. Alright, so here's obviously the most painful part of this, is actually getting these to work. Luckily, the wires on that side are kind of going to work here for us. So we'll load up on some solder. Wonderful. Alright. It's a little better. Alright, so put our shrink tubes where they're supposed to go, and then we're just going to use the soldering iron and give it some heat. You'll have to give it heat all around it, as it can only shrink so much in one direction. Obviously, make sure not to burn yourself. And definitely don't want to touch the plastic. Not only do you not want to smell burnt plastic, you also don't want to ruin your OEM plastic. Crap. That's good. And let's make sure we got power. Little scratchy, especially from the rear, which probably means it's missing its rear diff bushings, which I wouldn't be surprised. Alright. I'll see if I can get some video of this driving around here.